kids, as promised, I'm showing my face in the tutorial today. This is going to be something I have to get used to. I'm very uncomfortable and a lot more comfortable when it's just my voice, but it's all a process, and I really embrace the first time you do something, it's going to suck. So, hooray! This should be the shittiest one. Today's tutorial is about Fringe. It's just the basics. It's literally just how to make a strand. You can make your strands any length you want. I opted to go real long and make a crazy Thor She-Ra headband for myself because the rest of the time these days I'm making wedding gowns, which is very serious and very high pressure. So I thought making a fun She-Ra Thor headband would be a mental break. Plus still a fun way to show you how to make fringe. So yeah. The tutorial is in a few parts. The first part is just to get the basics of how to do a strand. You can apply the strands however you like. Here, create a bunch, but if you have specific questions, just get in touch. The second part is a secret. It's one of my, not really a secret, but it's not very well known in the beading community I've found, and it changed my life. In my first collection, second collection, Hardboiled Wonderland, I made a dress that had fringe all the way down the front, and I did it the slow way. I show you how to do the really basic slow way today, and then I'll reveal the secret part that made everything go so much faster. And I'm not gonna lie, most of the fringe on my project today was made with the secret way because it just shaves hours and eventually like days of time off your projects. And I'll tell you where to get that. Oh, I started to show you how I made the thing that I wore, that I made for my tutorial, how to apply my fringe. My original way didn't work out. I was trying to make it all black and gothy, but then when I tried it on, it sort of looked like a crown of thorns. It was like kind of Christy, which is cool, I guess, if you're into that, but really not at all what I was going for. So I just really leaned hard into the She-Ra Thor thing, which is hilarious because I always thought that like Thor's head thing was ridiculous, but I love him, so all right, let's get started. Okay, I think this tutorial this week is going to be a little bit shorter than than the one I did last week, but I'm just going to show you a basic fringe. So as you learn in my class, you'll need a bunch of beads, some thread, and beading needles. So for those of you who are new to this journey, I go on at length about needles quite a bit. These are my favorite ones. They're really long, very thin, and pretty strong, and I'm really hard on my needles. You can see they get bent pretty easily because I'm really hard on them. These ones are pretty strong, so they bend. They take longer to bend. They don't never bend, but anyway, the downside of beading needles is that they have really tiny eyes, and that's so that they fit through all the beads that you're probably going to be using. And yeah, that part's a pain. And what I'm going to show you today is especially a pain because I'm doing long, thin strands like this for my project. So we want quadruple. We're gonna double our thread for going through the actual needle, and I'll show you how I do that even with the tiny irritating eyes on beading needles. So I want my strand to be about that long, and I want it doubled up. So yeah. And often I'll just leave it right attached to that. You just want to make sure that you have double what you're going to need to go back through your length of fringe. So there we go, my quadruple length of thread here. There we go. All right. Oh, of course. Go back to my end here. And we can just snip that. Now these things are pains in the butt to thread on a normal day, and we're going to go through twice. The way that I do that through once, boom, and then I hold that down and find my other end. And go through again. There we go. So I've got my double strand through the beading needle. And actually, no, we only need a little bit on for now. Now, this is the part that's just very time consuming, getting your beads onto your thread. Here's a trick. I mean, you can put them on this way, which is also very time consuming, but when you're in the flow, it can go a bit faster. Or a trick that my interns dreamed up when we were working on Vessel is go like that. And it helps just make it go a little bit faster. And the longer, this is where actually having a bent needle comes in handy. Okay, so quite a long while later, we have a long fringe of beads. I'm going to push them down my double length of thread so that I can double back and have enough thread left over. Okay, so there we go. Now, here's the whole thing, the big trick with fringe. This is it. You've got your, this can be like that long, or it can be as long as you want, but this is all there is. You leave this bead free and you go back up through the one after it, all the way back up to the top. And there you go. All right, there we go. Pull your two threads snug. And there we go. We have a fringe strand. So I'm going to quickly go back through, do the same thing again. My quadruple strand. Now I'm going to introduce you to bead spinner. Especially when we start getting into tambour, this will be a very good friend to you. Little bead spinner is a base with a little peg. This has a hole in the bottom that slides over the peg. And he comes with a little curved needle like that, which is doubled up. So we put our double strand of thread through here. Much easier to thread than our pesky little beading needle, although he comes back. We need to hang on to him. But this is a much faster way of getting a long strand of beads onto your thread. Look at that. Boom, way faster, right? Set him down. And then, yeah, we go back to how we were doing it before. We still have to thread our beading needle twice. But after that, it's exactly the same as we did it the last time. Okay, it just occurred to me that there's a troubleshooting step that would be important for you guys to know. For it, we'll need a pair of pliers, a straight pin, and it can be a piece of cloth. I just grabbed a piece of tissue. Sometimes when you're threading back up your fringe strand, you'll get to a bead that won't fit over the eye of the needle. I haven't gotten to that in that, I have had it happen. So I'm gonna show you how to get past that without just having to take apart all of the work that you've put in. And this also works really well for tambour as well. If this were a use for this in tambour would be like, say you use the bead spinner and there was like one gold bead in the strand and you didn't notice, and now you're like, that's gonna show up in my work. How do I get rid of it without undoing everything? Here we go. You just put, most beads are made of glass or resin, which is why we have this. So you put the pin through it and then wrap it in the cloth or the tissue. Have it separated out. And then use the pliers to shatter it. You'll catch all your little bits. And the pin is there to protect your thread. If you try that without the pin in there, you might cut through your thread and you'll lose all your work again. So that's how you get rid of a random bead that's in your way and not helping. I was making no effort to make these even. I wanted them to all be different lengths. Now I'll show you what they were for. Okay, here's how I put together my ridiculous fringe. I tried to take a video of it on myself, but I couldn't, because it's on the sides in my head, I couldn't get a good angle. Oh yeah, look at that nonsense. Modeled by my lovely Simon. If that side's too much for you, there's another side. This side's way more chill. There we go. Yeah, that's got like a Gatsby thing going on.